welcome to today's live stream. It's been real slow because of the strikes. Because I haven't been able to put up as many regular videos as I would like, don't worry, there will be a Blue Beetle review tomorrow and a spoiler review this week, and then lots of videos actually planned for the week after. But anyway, I wanted to make today's stream open to all subscribers. So if you're a subscriber, you can participate in today's chat. But that didn't stop somebody from gifting some memberships. That's so kind of you, Brad. Thank you. And yes, it's the first day of the week. Jerome, thank you. Michael gifted some memberships. Lloyd, thank you so much. And by the way, if you want to become a movie club member, we're doing a watch along for No Hard Feelings on Friday at 6 p.m. Thank you also for gifting a membership, Alex. And it's the beginning of the week. So that means it's time for me to gift 5 memberships. I do it the first stream of every week. Here we go, baby. Here it comes. You just click on that $, and that way you can support the channel. You guys are really helping me out during the strike. Thank you so much. That really helps the channel, and it also allows other people to join in the fun with the stream. So it helps everybody, which I think is really nice. Here we go. Here it comes. Oh yeah, 5 memberships from moi. Thank you, Writer Boy. Thank you so much. And I was able to put together stories for today. I'm very happy the way that worked out. Huzzah! I saw somebody else just gifted a membership. Thank you, Pumpkin DeShazer. I love it. So since there are so many people in the chat today who are new, because it's open to subscribers, and you don't have to subscribe for any amount of time. As soon as you hit that subscribe button, you can jump in the chat. The way it works is that please keep your comments and super chat comments to the story at hand. And I'm not going to definitely answer your question until I open up each section to questions and comments. And then at the end of the stream, as always, there's an Ask Me Anything section for 10 minutes. So if you have a question or a comment that has nothing to do with today's stories, don't worry about it. You can ask that at the end, all right? And the stream's going to last about an hour because I have to get out. I have a hard out at 5 o'clock. And for those of you wondering, the Blue Beetle embargo lifts tomorrow at 1 p.m. So my video will be ready to go. I've been working on that today and the spoiler review, and it will go up. All right, August is a crazy month, man. It's crazy. Hey, everybody. Hey, Tillman, I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you made it, Josh. Hi, everybody. Hey, Jason Voorhees. I recognize some of you who can't be members who I talk to all the time on the Twitters. So that's very nice to see you here. Oh, happy birthday, Manny. I'm so glad you're able to participate in today's stream. All right, let's get started. I'll also, if we have time, do a round of shout outs at the very end as well. Oh, look at Megalito. First time in the chat, baby. All right, story number 1. Here it comes. All right, boop. $50 million for Margot Robbie. Get that bag, Margot. Good for her. So Variety reported yesterday that Margot Robbie is set to make, from her salary and from her bonuses, $50 million, around $50 million. And she is not only the star, but of course also the producer of the film. And she's getting some points. That's definitely some point participation. I have her here in her multiple amazing outfits for the movie. I think that was a huge part of what made that movie so explosive out of the gate. So very good for her. But she's pulling in a salary here on par with what usually male actors bring in. We're talking Robert Downey Jr., who infamously or famously brought in $100 million for one of the Avengers movies. Harrison Ford for Crystal Skull. Johnny Depp made a lot of money off the Pirates movies. And Margot Robbie her payday for a woman is the second biggest after Sandra Bullock, who pulled in $70 million for Gravity. Now, the reason Sandra Bullock didn't produce Gravity, and that movie didn't make $1 billion. It made $732.2 million. But I think that Sandra Bullock was a much bigger name at that time. They had gone down a huge list of people, and they really needed people to be in Gravity. That's right, Ricardo. While Angelina Jolie turned down Gravity, they were having a difficult time. So I think that to get Sandra Bullock and to probably keep the budget where they kind of needed it, they brought it down. They gave Sandra Bullock points. You know, David, Scarlett Johansson, I don't know if that totally counts because she had to sue for her Black Widow money. But yeah, and hey, get that bag however you can, ScarJo. We can't blame Scarlett Johansson for that. But, it's still, I don't want to belittle Margot Robbie's accomplishment by acting like anyone can do this. This is very impressive. So some people, I tweeted about how great this was yesterday, and your reactions were quite interesting, which is why I decided to cover it in today's stream as the first story. Also, it's not a lot going on, and it's a good story. Pardon me. All right, so anyway, some people said, hey, wait a minute, that doesn't seem like enough money for Margot Robbie considering the movie made $1 billion. What the what? Well, keep in mind that this is the first Barbie movie, so nobody knew that it was going to do well, necessarily. So they're not going to give her a ton of points on something that's not a proven commodity. Also, Margot Robbie's not a proven commodity, so they're not going to give her tons of points either for that reason. Now, I will say that if Harley Quinn does return, and some people are saying that some scoopers are saying that Harley Quinn might return to DC, after Margot Robbie made $1 billion for Warner Brothers, I bet she might be able to swing some points on whatever the Harley Quinn project is. That's what I would kind of say. I would say maybe she could get some points. Now, she does need to repeat. She needs another box office success to prove that it's her and not just Barbie. That's very important. But, she still gets to keep the $50 million either way. I see some of you asking about Greta Gerwig, like Jen did. Greta Gerwig did not produce this movie. Margot Robbie is the one who picked Greta Gerwig. Margot Robbie is the one who fought for Greta Gerwig. And Greta Gerwig has absolutely no big box office to her name before this. So Greta Gerwig's award is that she got to make the movie, and now her star is much bigger. So Greta Gerwig's not going to get points. It would be ridiculous to give Greta Gerwig points. I would laugh at Greta Gerwig if she suggested it. But I don't think Greta Gerwig was dumb enough to ask for it. So I'd be like, you're not getting points. But Margot Robbie deserved points. But if they make another Barbie, unless they lock the deal in, although she could pull a Jennifer Lawrence on Hunger Games and refuse to show up to set until she gets a better deal. But I think that, I think Margot Robbie would get even more points for a Barbie too. And as I said, I don't know how many points she would get, but I think she could swing some points for another Harley Quinn movie. Some of you are asking how points works. Points work in that you get a percentage of the gross, not the profit, because there's never any profit. I just saw a headline before we went live that someone is suing Disney over the Fox accounting for the Fox movies that are now owned by Disney. And they're like, how are these movies not making any money? This is ridiculous. That's accounting for you. Never take from profit. Always take off the top. So this has been going on for a very long time where you get points. It's part of being a free agent. And sometimes it's in addition to a huge payday, and sometimes it's instead of a huge payday because the movie can't afford the actor, but decides to give them points instead. So, for instance, Jennifer Lawrence was supposed to make a ton of money off of Passengers, but it did not work out and really hurt her career in the way it went. Now, something else that I thought was interesting is that some people said, well, why does she have to pay all these people? Because I said, Margot Robbie's not, before you think Margot Robbie's getting $50 million, that's not true. She's got a ton of people she's got to pay herself. She's a little business. And some people, for instance, someone was like, why she got to pay a lawyer, Grace? So I thought it would be interesting to go in and go over who everybody she has to pay, just so you could understand a little bit more of what it costs and what it takes to be a movie star. Now, of course, she also has her own production company, which Warner Brothers pays the operational costs for in exchange for a first look deal, but that's not part of this $50 million. And also, Margot Robbie might pull down a salary as an executive for that production company, but this is about Margot Robbie being like a star, okay? And by the way, she employs her husband, who runs the production company with her, as well as 2 other friends. So she helped out everybody she knows, and that's who runs her production company. But this is the money that goes to Margot Robbie, actress, okay? Even though she does partially get points because she's a producer, but and maybe some of this might go into the production company, but I don't think necessarily. All right, so off the top, well, first of all, she'd have to pay. So when the money comes in, right off the top, it actually doesn't get paid to her immediately. Instead, it will probably go to her manager and or agent. Some people have just an agent. Some people have a manager and an agent. Some people just have a manager and no agent. And some people go crazy and just have a lawyer. But anyway, these are percentages. Now, this will be paid to whoever's representing her, and that person will give the percentages to the other people, the other main people, before passing on the rest to Margot Robbie for tax purposes. If they gave it all immediately to Margot Robbie would have to pay tax on money she wasn't technically getting. So agents and managers an agent and manager usually get anywhere from 10 to 15%, and then a lawyer typically gets about 5%. Now, some of you have wondered, why would she have to pay? So what's the difference? An agent does your deals, the day-to-day. They work very hard to, make this deal to get you the points. So it's very important. They go over the contracts for you, although the lawyer is supposed to help with that as well. While a manager is supposed to look more at big picture. A manager, to some degree, is supposed to be shaping your entire career down the line, thinking of what's going to be your billion-dollar picture, et cetera, et cetera. And then you need a lawyer to make sure that your contracts are looked out after, that you get what you need. So that you really need, sometimes if you're lower down, you can't afford all three of these people. And you probably don't need them because you don't have a lot of deals coming through. But when you're a name, when you're Margot Robbie, you need a lawyer. She just needs someone to check those contracts, and also they need someone. That lawyer has people who they pay to read all the minutia, to go through all the details. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's a lot. These contracts are thick, and they're trying to trick you. So that's why Margot Robbie pays those people. Then she gets the rest back. Okay, so after all those percentages are taken out, we're up to maybe about like 30%. So 30%'s already gone. Bye, 30%. Then with what's left, she needs to pay the people who work for her specifically. That is a publicist who fields questions from the press about her, manages the story. If there's ever a story maybe Margot Robbie doesn't want out, her publicist is supposed to be on top of that, maybe offering something in exchange to silence that story, getting cover stories, overseeing the interviews themselves, checking the photographs. Very, very important. She definitely has a publicist, and she has to pay that salary herself. Then she has to pay a stylist, and she was paying a really crappy stylist before, but she seems to have upgraded to a much better stylist. And that's so she has to pay that person who manages all of her looks at premieres, for interviews, for awards shows. Anytime she steps out publicly, that's very important. Then she has to pay a personal trainer. Now, a lot of times the studio will pay for a personal trainer for you for a specific project. Like Alexander Skarsgård on Tarzan, the studio, Warner Brothers, would pay for that stylist. However, since Margot Robbie wants to look great all the time, even between jobs, especially because she's an actress, she's a woman, she needs a personal trainer. And in fact, though, Margot Robbie hired her personal trainer to be the personal trainer on Barbie, who did the personal training for Margot Robbie, all the other Barbies, all the Kens. So she does create like a community. But she does have to pay that personal trainer for her own time out of her own pocket. And then, even though she surely has an assistant within the company, within her Lucky Chap Productions, she needs a personal assistant, especially because she's on set. She needs someone to field her calls, pay attention to her schedule, make sure everything gets done. And she can't make the company pay for that because that person's probably doing a lot of her personal stuff that it would be really bad to have that person on the company payroll. She maybe even has two assistants. Or maybe there's an assistant who works for Lucky Chap who maybe helps all of them. I don't know how often Margot Robbie is in the office, quite frankly. It's more likely usually her husband and her friends. They probably have one or two assistants that run the phones for them and do all that stuff. So Margot Robbie probably, and then that person helps her with the Lucky Chap stuff. But Margot Robbie definitely at least has one personal assistant who's just on top of her schedule and everything like that. And she has to pay that person as well. This is a ridiculous amount of overhead. So you can see, that $50 million gets spent pretty quick when you're running basically what's a little company. All right, does anybody have any questions about this? Ricardo, I think it's funny that you said this is next level elite. I saw a funny meme today online where they had Larry King interviewing Danny from DuckTales, and they're like, what's your splurge? And he goes, really good coffee. And Larry David apparently was like, why not a private plane? And the guy's like, I'm on DuckTales, Larry. I can't afford a private plane. Mika, that's an interesting point. Hold on. But Mika, that's an interesting point. Since she's Australian and she's, I don't know where she does her banking though, which is also very important, Something else to remember. I'm not quite sure. Hold on. My mouse has got lost in the thing there. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, wherever she does her banking might have an issue on that. If she holds her money in the United States, she might not have to pay any additional taxes for Australia. Once she pulls that money out and puts it in Australia, at an Australian bank, maybe it'll get moved. Maybe it'll be taxed. But oh yeah, by the way, her accountant. How could I forget the accountant? Add the accountant to that. Who's ever doing her taxes and getting these loopholes for her? She has to pay them. And then Jerome had a very good point that she certainly has a security team at this point. And so she has to pay for her own security. So add security and her accountant to this as well. Oh my God, it's so expensive. My goodness. Let's see here. Britt says, does this hurt or help her Oscar campaign? I think because the movie has such strong messaging and is so feminist, I think it actually helps it. Because this Barbie is a mega producer who made $50 million. So good for her. Mario, I believe that this would be her international team. And she also, by the way, if they have to fly anywhere with her for a specific project, she can negotiate, or her lawyer and manager can, and her agent, and that's how they earn their percentage. The studio might have to cover the costs of travel for her personal trainer, stylist, publicist, and assistant. But on some productions, and if it's a private thing or an awards show, right, she would have to pay for that travel as well. And that's also incredibly expensive. Oh, it's so expensive. So expensive. That's why you need these big salaries when you're a major star. So I've seen some people say, it's ridiculous how big the salaries are for major stars. And it's like, are you aware what they have to pay for? Nilfinity says, could this story have been released to hurt the strike? I don't think so at all. I think it's meant to help Margot Robbie and to show that more and more women are getting these major paydays. Maloko says she doesn't have social media. That's a great point, Maloko. She'd otherwise have to pay a social media manager, or maybe her publicist would cover that. But that's right, Margot Robbie isn't on social media, and good for her. I think Margot Robbie is not the kind of person who should be on social media. It allows her to not have any, it allows everyone to think she agrees with them, right? Everyone's like, Margot Robbie would agree with me because she doesn't voice an opinion. I think opinions are not great for actors. They want to be able to disappear into roles and have as wide appeal as possible. They can get enough trouble as it is with interviews. So I think she's right to stay off of social media, quite frankly. And also her fashion sense has been awful. So what's she going to take pictures of? She's like, look how awful this outfit is. And we're like, it is awful. Let's see here. Olga says, is $12 million upfront salary included in this $50 million deal? It would be, Olga. This would cover everything. This $50 million is everything, every penny she gets off of the first Barbie movie. Although just from the theatrical, Margot Robbie would certainly get points from the digital sales, and when it eventually goes, if there's any streaming revenue whatsoever, she's probably one of the first people in line to recoup from that. So she'll be getting residuals, especially because she's the first on the call sheet and the producer. She'll be getting significant there as well. KBTV says, what about Ryan Gosling? Well, he gets a major career boost. I'm sure he got a couple $1 million off of this, but because Ryan Gosling is not a big box office draw, I can't see him getting more than 5, quite frankly. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was less than that. I'd give him maybe I personally would have given him maybe 3 or 4. I'd be like, you're the male lead in this movie. That's incredible. So that's probably what I would have paid him, quite frankly. He's probably going to get more for whatever role comes next after this, because he's Ken. If they make a Ken movie, that's where he could get substantial amount of revenue. Tay, we're not getting Babylon 2. Why would she want to do that? She's like, let me get out of here, man. Hopefully now nobody remembers Babylon. Nicholas, I'm glad you made the stream. Happy Tuesday. And I Don't Care Bear says she was a brand ambassador contract with Chanel, which caused the bad looks, but that's finished now. Chanel did that to her? How awful. But she got paid for it. She got paid to look that bad. She's like, this is Chanel, baby. And that's more money to pay for all this stuff that she's got to pay for. It's ridiculous. Elia, Babylon, that horrible movie she was in the red dress. That was quite a dress, though. I'm glad you made the stream, too, Emerson. All right, so let's move on to the next story. Yes, Vachuli says, does SAG take any money off this bonus? Vachuli, Great point. Yes, SAG takes a percentage as well. I don't know if they take the bonus. I think they might just take the salary. Hey, Nicola in Italy. Verona, no less. That's pretty sweet. What a city. But anyway, SAG also takes part of this to help. It's, every actor has to pay a percentage of their salary to SAG because that's how SAG, dues is how SAG gets their money and is able to support the other actors. Mr. Seymour Duck says, Margot Robbie made $50 million on one movie and no one bats an eye. But if a CEO has the potential to make $27 million like Bob Iger, everyone thinks it's unfair. Why is that? That's an interesting question, Seymour Duck. I'm happy to answer it. Well, first of all, Bob Iger has no risk. He's making that money every year, no matter what. Of course, he can get fired, but, that is a substantial amount of money with no risk. He is gainfully employed, whereas Margot Robbie has to roll the dice and is banking incredibly on this movie. Also, I didn't see, David Zaslav. I didn't see him on the red carpet in a pink suit. Did you? He should have been. Where was Zazzy? I would have loved to have seen him in a pink suit. What a missed opportunity. At least a pink tie. Come on, Zazzy, get out there. And while Bob Iger shows up at premieres, he's not a major presence. Margot Robbie, I've never seen anyone work this hard to promote a movie. She earned that money. So thank you, Ariel Knight. So that's a big part of it. That's a part. SES says Babylon and Barbie made $1 billion combined. What are you, Babylon's publicist, Essie? That's hilarious. But that's the reason. And I don't think anyone feels, Peter, you're not a member. It's open the chat is open to subscribers today. Oh, DC, you're right. Personal chef. Oh, Rick, thank you for gifting 5 memberships. That's a good point, though, DC. Margot Robbie certainly has to pay a personal chef. Actors, to keep a specific weight and look, have to eat very specific meals, and they certainly don't have time to cook. So she definitely has a personal chef who might not be there every day, but is certainly preparing meals for her. I've heard of personal chefs that prepare food on set as well. But also, I don't think that anyone feels that Bob Iger's pay is unfair as long as everybody else is getting fair pay. The point is that Bob Iger is getting paid a ton of money, but yet is claiming there isn't enough money to pay other people. All right, let's move on to the next story. Story number 2. Boop. All right, the Writers Guild. The talks have not fallen apart. As you might recall from Friday's stream, they sat down for round 2. So remember, now that you asked questions, I might not get to it until the next open session, okay? Just be aware of that, okay? All right, so they sat down on Friday for round 2, and they're moving ahead somewhat, so that's encouraging. Now, Bloomberg broke this story earlier today, and it seems the studios have made an offer. They're like, how about this? And the reason the studios are maybe, let me get rid of this Margot Robbie thing. The reason the studios are maybe a little bit more willing to play ball is Netflix and Bob Iger are pushing to get this thing settled. Bob Iger's like, man, I got to turn myself back into the hero, although I don't know if that's going to work for him. But anyway, Bob Iger and Ted Sarandos over at Netflix are like, we must finish this. We must settle this. So they're apparently making a strong push. Where I guess Zazzy is like, F you, everybody. All right, so then also they're getting close to the window closing for having a fall TV season. They're going to reach a point soon where they just won't have enough time to be able to deliver it. I think they at least want to get the writers going, So that's good. And then I think they also want to pressure the actors to start talks, to put the actors being the only ones that are holding up the whole discussion, the whole, going back to work. Meanwhile, today, SAG was like, we'd love to talk to someone. And AMTP is like, no, they clearly want to settle the writer's strike first. All right, so this is what they offered. And the Writers Guild is currently huddled and discussing it, okay? They offered an increase in salary and residuals, okay? But part of that is a 20% increase. This is interesting. If a show were to air on a platform other than intended, what it was originally made for. So let's say if you made a show for Max and then Zazzy sells it or makes a deal for it to air on Netflix, right? Like Issa Rae for Insecure. she would get 20% increase in residuals. So that's encouraging. That's nice, okay? Although to me, that just makes it sound like they're going to do less moving the shows to other channels, quite frankly. They're like, you know how much this is going to cost us? Unless the payday is so big for moving it. Then they're also offering more control over the writers, number of writers on set, and the number of writers in a room. So that's a positive, because many rooms have been a big sticking point, understaffing and making everybody else freelance. Then also, they're willing to share viewership figures, but they're not willing so far to tie it to money. So they're like, you can know how many people are watching your show. We'll show it to you, but we're not allowing it to affect what you're getting paid. So it's like, then what's the point? Just make me angry? And then also, they said that the scripts have to be written by humans. What a kind of a Black Mirror concession is that? They're like, all right, a human has to be credited as having written the script. But I mean, I guess it doesn't preclude, I think it doesn't preclude from using AI, but apparently it blocks you from solely having an AI written script, which, yeah, thank you. And then also, they're apparently willing to raise some of the pay and what the minimums are for working on a show. So that's pretty good. I don't love it. I don't want to marry it, but maybe I'd flirt with it across the room. Let's see. But it's okay. It's okay. I think at a certain point, they're just going to have to take something. Because this can't go on forever. So we'll see what they decide. We'll just see what they decide to do. So that's I'm glad you guys like my joke. So that's the situation right now. We'll see what the Writers Guild decides to do. It would be major. It would be huge if they settled the strike. They have a little under a month at this point to get to Labor Day, and then it would put tremendous pressure on the Actors Guild to then settle. But again, as I said, I don't love this, and it would make me question to some degree why we went on strike in the first place. But again, a good compromise means everybody's a little bit upset. And, I think writers in particular who are past 100 days of strike are really feeling the pain. Shahar, I'd have to see more specifics to decide if it was a fair deal. But I'm not excited about it. But I guess it is good enough that I would consider it as the Writers Guild is doing. And, they have the right to counter, obviously. All right, so let's open it up to questions on this subject matter. Mike says, do all the studios coordinate their offer together and present it to the union, or does the union strike a different deal with each studio? No, there's a AMPTP, which is the worst acronym ever. You're like, what do I call you? Evil. But anyway, the studios have an organization, the main studios do, and that's who is negotiating with the unions. And they, for a new contract, which they work under. Babette, I'm not sure what movies I'm reviewing in September. That has nothing to do with what we're discussing, although I appreciate your enthusiasm. Flavio says, what else would you like in a deal? I would really like, to settle the problem with, that's a good point. I kind of want to do away with subscription streaming, but that's not going to happen. I guess I would like to see, more transparency, and I would like to see, I think respect. I guess that's what I feel is missing. And I'm big on respect and personal dignity, and my personal life as well. That's crucial to me. I think everybody should be treated with respect. And that's one of the things that I'm most offended by. And I don't think the writers get any respect. And I think that that's what really frustrates me. And I still don't feel like it seems like the writers are being valued and respected. They're still like, whatever, man. I'm glad you guys agree. Ben says, are the studios not willing to share viewership data because it's so small or because it's so big? I think because it could go either way, Ben. I think some of it's quite small, and I think some of it's quite big. And I think that I'm sure also they're like, how are we going to divide up the subscription fee? Like, I only have $14 to cover an entire catalog? How is that going to work? That's right, Christopher. I was thinking of Rodney Dangerfield. I don't get no respect. Let's see here. He's doing his tie. I love Rodney Dangerfield. Let's see here. Adrianic says, can the writers and actors ask for the same deal? No, because it's different situations. Like, for instance, writer's room are a totally different situation. And the way AI is used is different. Thanks, Dwayne. Thanks for saying that, Dwayne. Thanks, Eo. I'm glad you like my lipstick. I'm still rocking the Nicki Minaj. I still have some of that left. I've got 3 of these left. And then I'll have to find a new lipstick. But then also, I've started layering over it this mineral. Oh, all the writing came off of it. It's like a mineral makeup, and this is called Twinkle, and they sell it at Whole Foods, which is very good. I love this. I wish Nicki Minaj would do more makeup. She has got great style. What's a Barb's heart? Like a Barbie? I'd love to be. I'll be an honorary Barbie. We're all Barbies. That's the point of the movie. Thanks, Tiger Shark Studios. Since we're just talking about my makeup, let's move on to the next story. I appreciate it, but let's move on to the next story. And then we can do the Ask Me Anything. All right, story number 3. Boom, baby. Oh, I didn't totally cover up Jared Leto's face. All right, so today, speaking of the strike, the director, Joaquin Roning, took to his Instagram account and said, I hate everybody. Because today I was supposed to start filming my movie. I can't believe, Joaquin's like, I can't believe that I got hired again after doing Pirates 5 and Maleficent 2. I somehow managed to talk Disney into giving me Tron 3. Hey, Sadie, thanks for gifting a membership. That's just nuts. Oh, Rick, I think I thanked you. Okay, you're like, what? And he's like, and he's probably worried that Disney's going to come to their senses. And he's like, today I was supposed to start filming Tron 3. And because of the strike, I'm not making it. And not only are we not filming Tron 3, but I had to fire 150 people that were supposed to work on the project. And you're like, well, you didn't fire them. And people are really losing their job. It's very serious. A lot of studios, VFX companies are shutting down divisions and companies and firing a lot of people across the board. CAA fired a bunch of people. There just isn't enough money coming in to pay for all this. But anyway, 150 people didn't get to show up for work today. And it really sucks. But, everybody's fighting for the future of this industry. And I know that IATSE, the union that covers people who work behind the camera, doesn't like it. But, when IATSE goes on strike, they're going to expect people to support them. So suck it up, man. So anyway, 150 people were not able to show up to work today. And so while he was complaining about this on Instagram, I'm like, man, pipe down. I can't believe you're on that movie. And I think he had some ridiculous quote where he goes, this is Hollywood. We close deals for breakfast. And I'm like, how many deals are you closing, Joaquin Roning? Are you serious? I thought that was ridiculous. I was like, come on. He's like, I'm some kind of wheeler dealer. And you're like, you make such crap. I just can't believe you're still in the room. It's a miracle. All right. Really, I just don't understand how anybody at Disney was like, yeah, I think we should hire him for a 3rd time. Let's do it. You're just like, do you guys even watch your own product? Do you sample your own product, man? Now, speaking of stupid decisions, I can't believe that Jared Leto is the lead on this movie. I thought he was just going to run in the background, like, he did in Blade Runner and be all kooky, and then I thought we were going to focus on maybe Evan Peters and Cameron Monaghan. But no, apparently the star of this movie is Jared Leto. And I'm like, are you kidding me with this? So it's called Tron. Now, instead of being called Tron 3, it's called Tron Ares. Why wouldn't it be called Tron Icarus, maybe, for flying too close to the sun? I'm like, what does Ares have to do with this? So anyway, Ares is apparently a computer program played by Jared Leto, who goes into the real world, the human world. And in fact, apparently most of the movie is going to take place in the real world. And it's about the journey of artificial intelligence becoming human, right? And I'm like, isn't Mission Impossible doing this? And isn't The Matrix about this? And also, to some degree, apparently, Heart of Stone. So I think AI stories are getting old real quick. Oh, yeah, of course, Westworld, Mika. There's no way they're going to do this better than Westworld. And Westworld had a real small audience. So I don't think people are that interested in this storyline. Unless it's got a lot of blue visuals, then I think we're into it. But I'm like, the lead? The lead? Honestly, if I were Disney during the strike, I would say, maybe because they just didn't film, maybe they can use the force majeure clause now, which is like circumstances beyond their control. That's right, Fachuli, and fire Jared Leto. I'd be like, I fired you, I'm sorry. That's just shocking to me. It's just so incredible. But yeah, I mean, the lead, I mean, it's just nuts. And the rest of the cast is pretty good. It's got Evan Peters, Jodie Turner-Smith, who a lot of us want to see as Storm, Greta Lee from Past Lives. Her career is taking off. And then, of course, Cameron Monaghan. But let's see. Oh, yeah, Jerome, Morbius was such a flop. All right, does anybody have any questions about Tron? And then we shall move to Ask Me Anything. We're doing very well on time, so we'll definitely be able to do a good Q&A and then also some shout-outs. Shout-outs! By the way, I like Jared Leto. I mean, as an actor, I think he's talented. Apparently no Jeff Bridges, Ivan. I think that's beyond stupid as well. I mean, maybe he doesn't want to do it, but oh yeah, I said, I'm like, how much money I got to pay? How much money do I just take my blank checkbook and I'd say, Jared Leto, how much money do I have to pay to get rid of you? And Jeff Bridges, how much money do I have to pay for you to come back in the movie? You guys want a poll? All right, we'll do a poll. Tron 3. Tron 3 thoughts. So excited. DOA with Jared Leto. DOA without Jeff Bridges. And then let's see a trailer. Which is how everybody really honestly feels. You're like, we get all angry, but then we're like, does it come out for Memorial Day weekend? What's the trailer look like? Does it look really cool? Maybe I'll watch it. I did a joke about that for one of my earliest videos, was making jokes about one of the Terminator movies, being like, you can't, like what Zachary Levi is saying. He had some nerve saying not to watch garbage, considering his track record. But he was like, people are just watching garbage, man. And I didn't appreciate Charlie Kaufman calling popular movies garbage either. I think that's a really counterproductive thing. These movies are successful, and the name of the game is you're selling a product, and if people paid a lot of money to see it, then you have a successful product. So that's something that should be thought of. Let's see, a trailer is winning. Visionary, I didn't watch Heart of Stone. Well, hold on, we haven't gone to the Q&A. Oh yeah, K Blue 625, I agree, Daft Punk. Got to do the score. Or I would accept Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. Or the guy who does the Blue Beetle score, who I now love, and his name is like something, Bobby Krillick or something. Rihanna, that's right. Morbius is not Disney. That's true, but it's a previous Jared Leto movie, so we're using it as an outlier. Celestine says, what's your opinion on Rachel Zegler? Does she need a better publicist? Okay, let's move on to the next story in a minute. I think she does need, I'll talk about Rachel Zegler in a minute. Jeff Bridges was not great in Tron, but who cares? You got to have him. All right, so let me end the poll, and then we'll do the Q&A. All right, so 49% are like, let me see a trailer. 35% say it's DOA with Jared Leto. 11% feel it's DOA without Jeff Bridges, while only 4% are excited as is. Ooh, that's rough. That's rough. All right, so let's do the Q&A. All right, so Celestine wants to know about Rachel Zegler. Now, we talked about Rachel Zegler a little bit the other day in the stream, and also I was talking to a friend about Rachel Zegler just yesterday. And I feel that Rachel Zegler, what happened is that I think Rachel Zegler comes from social media, and she has been used to just talking to one very specific group, like an echo chamber. And I think she just got a little bit ahead of herself, a little bit too enthusiastic, and I think she said some stuff that really rubbed a lot of other people the wrong way. And so a publicist obviously would be able to coach her for that better. But I think also part of it is just a really unfortunate learning curve of reaching out to a bigger audience. And also a learning curve about, maybe, don't go so hard on an opinion and don't trash the original that you're remaking to a degree. But yeah, I think a PR coach would be really valuable, even in a positive way. It's not like, whoa, you need a PR coach. It's like, what would really benefit you and be worth the money? A PR coach. Mandy says, Grace, have you gotten screeners for The Winter King? I don't even know what that is, Mandy. So no, I have not. Hey, Cooper. Thank you. John, I did watch the Maestro teaser. I felt really bad for his wife, I felt really bad. I'll be curious to see how they try and spin it. But it looked cool. It looked a lot like that Kate Blanchett movie from last year about a composer, which I thought was interesting. I mean, about, in that case, a conductor. Missy the Cat says, why didn't they use the Aqua song in the Barbie movie? Well, didn't Nicki Minaj and Ice Pink kind of remix it a little bit? I think that they didn't want to, pay for it, and I think that some of the lyrics are a little suggestive, so they decided instead to just kind of do a mix on it. Let's see here. Ethan says, what screenplays would you recommend reading for new screenwriters? What a great question, Ethan. I would read old screenplays. I think, if you should read some current screenplays to understand how they work and how the industry is functioning today. But if you really want to learn the craft and learn the foundation of the craft, you should pick up like movies that have won the Oscar for Best Screenplay. So work your way through those. And also, I think, what was his name? William Goldman. He wrote a book about screenwriting. I think it's that. Let me look. He's like the most famous screenwriter of all time. He wrote a book on adventures in the screen trade and like how to do that stuff and like a how-to, and it still holds up to this day. So that's what I would recommend. Logan says, hey Grace, will you be covering D23? And are you looking forward to Snow White 2024? Nobody enjoys like a giant car, like disaster. But, I hope it's good maybe. When's the next D23? I always cover D23. But the next D23 Expo, it would have been, when is it this year? There's no D23 this year. That's, people are getting confused. D23 is multiple things, okay? So D23 is not only an expo every other year, but it's also a membership club for fans. And so every year they have like a destination D23 event, which is like not new news or anything like that. And that is just for D23 members that want to travel to attend that. That's what's happening this year. Next year is the actual D23 Expo, which is like Disney's Comic-Con, and I will definitely cover that for sure. Max says, how would Megan Fahey be as Poison Ivy? No, I don't. I think she's great from White Lotus, and I'm glad she just signed with major representation, but she does not say Poison Ivy to me. But maybe the one that like Belle plays. Maybe that version of Poison Ivy. You might be onto something there, maybe. Thanks, the meddling gays. I appreciate that. Mandy says, Grace, what do you think has more possibilities of being successful? The Avatar series or the Percy Jackson series? Love from Peru. I think that the Percy Jackson series is going to skew too young. I'm very nervous about that. I do not see it doing really, really well. But I think that, are you talking about like the Avatar The Last Airbender stuff? That's going to be movies, I think, but I think those could do quite well. I'm very excited about that. That's right, Side-Eye Energy, open chat. Reese Coder says, I work in a commercial art department and the strike is killing all of us. We need new negotiations across the board. Yeah, it's really rough. It's really hurting the news industry, entertainment news. It's rough. There's like nothing coming out. It's brutal. But, again, it has to be done. Vincent says, who do you think will be the villain in Doctor Strange 3? I haven't heard anything about that. I've seen some rumors. But I think the third movie is very far away at this point. Nilfinity says, why do directors get so much heat for how a movie turns out? Isn't the majority of the story and the writing? P.S. Have you checked the book Disney War? I've heard people mention that. I have not read it, but I've heard good things about it. When it comes to movies, directors are in control, and when it comes to streaming and television, writers are in control. And so that's where the buck stops, and that's just the way it is. Because often writers are not on set, and things get changed without their consent, and directors are the ones who are the general, who are leading the charge. Although producers sometimes get in trouble as well. Dylan, nobody can choose who gets a gifted membership. That's up to YouTube, and they give them out to people who are most engaged with the channel. Bangarang, I haven't heard anything new about Blade, unfortunately, and they can't have any updates because of the writer's strike. Let's see here. The Meddling Gays. I've seen the first few episodes of Heartstopper Season 2, but I'm afraid I have not watched Red, White, and Royal Blue. Although I'm so glad people are enjoying it. It's getting a lot of attention. And I read a very nice interview with the director in The Hollywood Reporter that I thought was nice. Let's see here. Danny, I don't know if the review embargo lifts on the 17th. That might be the social media embargo, but the 17th, usually review embargo for Disney Plus shows lifts the day before release. There is a fan event on the 17th, but I don't know if that's when the review embargo is. They haven't given out the details just yet. Gary Phillips says, why is For All Mankind so overlooked? Well, that's because Apple TV only has so many dollars to spend on awards campaigns and stuff, and they just don't, they've chosen not to put it behind that show. But I mean, people are watching it because it gets renewed, but I think that's part of the issue. Shamar, I don't have any Wiccan or Hulkling tea just right now. I don't want to ruin the show. And David Kyle, I saw that rumor about Taylor Swift as being in Deadpool 3, and I don't want to find out if that's true. I'm upset that that potentially leaked. Anthony says, how do actors like Margot, who also serve as producer, navigate their engagement with studios given the strike? She can't make any deals as an actor or a writer right now. I mean, she can certainly, her company and her agent and manager can negotiate things for Barbie because it's already out, but you know, she has to, she's on strike. Rebecca, I love the latest episode of Winning Time. I think Jerry Buss is such a cool historical figure in the world of sports and business. I just really am loving that show. I love everybody on that show. It's fantastic. Uh, 521182 says, how can Mattel announce so many new movies amid the writer's strike? Well, the issue is that they aren't saying that they're making them for sure, and they haven't assigned a writer or any actors to it. So they're just saying that these are in development, which means, you know, they're planning to try and make them. Let's see here. LL, I have not seen any new Snow White leaks on Twitter. I'm scared to look at this point. Happy birthday, Jamie Isaac Choi. Babette says, did you hear that Kenneth Branagh is planning to make like 10 more Poirot movies? That's ridiculous. I mean, he might be planning it, but I don't know if Disney's planning to pay for it. Hey, Shadow Dragons, thank you. Morgan, I enjoyed the first 2 episodes of Heartstopper, although I felt that Charlie's parents were really unfair to him in keeping him from seeing Nick, his boyfriend. I was like, that is not going to work. Let's see here. Oak Sky says, Michael Fassbender is back with 2 new movies this year, The Killer and Next Goal Wins. Do you think he can make a successful comeback? Well, Next Goal Wins looks pretty good to me, and he's in the new Fincher movie. So, I mean, that's great for him. I think that at the very least, you know, those should be good movies. Thanks, Poke. That weird boy says, hey, Grace, been a while since I joined the conversation. If there's no stories to fill the stream, maybe we can do a FaceTime stream like you did during the pandemic. Oh, maybe. You never know. That's an interesting suggestion. Hey, Devin Henderson, any updates on the MCU schedule? What If Season 2? Nothing. Oh, bye, Isaac. I feel like, you know, right now, I think they're just trying to fix the movies. I mean, they're on hold. They can't really do anything, and their writing is a big problem. Eric Ramos says, Grace, would you support an MCU reboot by Wanda after Secret Wars? No, I would not. I don't think the MCU should reboot. I think that the whole point of it is that it's one continuous story, and I feel like there's still gas left in the tank if it was run better. Antoine, hey Antoine, says, I'm a member. Since when? Oh, you're not a member. It's open to subscribers today, but I'm glad you can chat. Let's see here. Steven says, missed my chat. Yesterday was the iconic Halle Berry's birthday. Wanted to know if you have a favorite Halle Berry role or film. I like Halle Berry. She's a lot of fun. I've always enjoyed her, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'm going back. I'm sorry I missed some super chats. Hold on. Sometimes YouTube skips ahead. Okay, I think I'm caught up here a little bit. Okay, so Ruben says, hi Grace, outside of House of the Dragon, why do you think the landscape for highbrow TV fantasy is not doing so great? I think it's extremely expensive, so it's hard to do, so there isn't a lot of highbrow fantasy. Sandman did pretty well. You know, Lord of the Rings seems to have some people watching it, so I think it does okay, but I think it's so prohibitively expensive, that's why you don't see a ton of it. Ozzy G says, Grace, I'm Just Ken, or What Was I Made For the Oscar? It might be What Was I Made For, but it should be I'm Just Ken. If it's not I'm Just Ken, I'm going to be upset. B-Man, I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles might get a sequel. It's doing pretty good, and it has very strong audience scores. Let's see here. Daniel says, I can't find any tea about Severance that I heard about here. What's the scoop? Well, there have been no updates, Daniel, except for apparently the fact that was last reported, and that's that the second season is just totally fallen apart, and they're trying to fix it. And the longer it takes to hear an update on that is really just makes it more and more scary. VHS says, live action Princess and the Frog. I've seen some headlines. Is it true? Great question. I asked about that because there's been a lot of Disney live action headlines lately. And I found out that because there's no new headlines because of the strikes, a lot of scoopers to keep having content to put out are mining old casting wish lists. So these are in a lot of cases, very old casting wish lists that have not been updated. So take them with a huge grain of salt. I can see you, Smitting 20. TJK, For All Mankind is on Apple, I'm pretty sure, not Disney Plus. Let's see here. Classic movie lover. I love it. Says, from Hitchcock fan to Hitchcock fan, do you like Suspicion? I can't sit through it just like Vertigo. No, Vertigo is the only Hitchcock movie, except for some of his later ones like Frenzy and stuff. I don't like those very well. Or The Trouble with Harry. But almost every other Hitchcock movie I absolutely adore. Mike says, do you think streaming would have become so prominent so quickly had Netflix not rose to prominence? No, of course not. Everybody saw how much money Netflix was making, and they were like, oh, us too, and it didn't work out. Cooper Mercer says, who would be your dream casting for Jordan Peele's next film? Ayo Ebadiri and Dominique Fishback would be awesome. The stars on the rise. Oh, that's great. I saw that John Boyega volunteered online when people were asking about that. That John Boyega, very vocal. Sometimes it works for him, sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, Ayo Edebiri in particular, she's just doing great. Reese, favorite comics this year? I read a really good Mr. Freeze, One Bad Day. That actually came out last year, but I read it again because they released it as a trade, they re-released it, but I thought it was quite good. But I'm really enjoying Fables and Saga. I think those are the best consistent comics coming out right now. Let's see here. Hi, Grace. What are the chances that Cillian Murphy and Margot Robbie win Best Actor and Best Actress? I don't know about that. Let's see what the actual lineups are. Carlo Emanuel says, Grace, you made so many people happy today by opening up the chat to all. This community is so giving. I'm so glad you think so, Carlo. I'm glad I could open it up to everybody today so we could all have some fun. And then Devin Henderson says, what do you feel is the most profitable model for streaming? Could Marvel shows debut on ABC to sell ads and eventually trickle down to Disney Plus? No, that makes it too small. Who's watching it up front? I think the a la carte menu is the way to go. Mandy says, Grace, if Percy Jackson's series ends up being successful, will you cover it? I just would love to see you talk about it. I'm a huge fan. Thanks, Mandy. That means a lot. Also, why do you think it won't be successful? Again, love from Peru. Well, Mandy, as I said, I think it might just skew too young. And thanks for the heart, Mandy, as well. I think that's probably like a potential issue. But I think, I'll definitely review it. I don't know if I'll cover it like episode by episode, but I don't know if it's going to be that type of show anyway. But it's a big enough brand that I'll definitely review it, Mandy, just because it's such a big brand. Bruno Cortez says, hey, Grace, any news on the Snow White teaser? I don't know. Let's see. I think they're just bracing for maybe with Wish. Maybe with Disney's Wish at Thanksgiving. I could see that. All right, so let me do shout outs, okay? Q&A is over. Let's do shout